Thank you, Wendy. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. Can I just say, wow? Right? This is amazing. I tell you, I'm very grateful to Mayor Bynum being here today, but, Wendy, he handed the mic to Wendy. Might as well have just dropped it. I mean, really, right? I mean, the mayor's been such a positive force, so I think it was so fitting to have him kick it off for us today. And I'm just thrilled you all are here. This is going to be a wonderful day. We did a rehearsal last week, and I was just in awe of all the amazing things happening here in Tulsa. So I first want to start just by thanking some of our sponsors. First, let me thank, please, our OU sponsors for being our host sponsor. Very grateful to the University of Oklahoma. Please give it up for them. As well as the Tulsa World for serving as our media sponsor. Please give it up for Tulsa World. And very grateful to our 2018 Leadership Tulsa corporate sponsors, without whom we would not be having this event today. So please give it up for them as well. So you're going to see throughout the slides, throughout the afternoon, we're going to be honoring our sponsors in between some of the talks. And I want to tell you why I'm here. So, I have one of my former students is out there, Laura Ross-White. So Laura was helping work on this project, and Laura took my class at NSU, the positive psychology class, and I'm told that she's to blame, to give credit to, for me being here today. And really what my point is to start off the day with is just to frame this whole day in the context of this fascinating new field called positive psychology. So I'm currently an administrator at TCC, but I used to be a university professor. And back in 2004, when I was starting at a small private liberal arts school in Tacoma, Washington, called University of Puget Sound, all right, some love for UPS. I love that. Thank you very much. All right, there's one person who knows what that is. I like that. Thank you very much. So I remember starting there and really starting to hear about this new field about positive psychology, and it was very intriguing to me. And so as I read more about it, what I found out was that the American Psychological Association president in 1998 was a man named Dr. Martin Seligman. And he made it his purpose, in his presidential address to the association, he talked about psychology being half-baked. And what he meant by that is that we are not focusing on the right things about the human condition. He said that we are focusing too much on dread and all the negative things we have. And he quoted what Freud said, is that the purpose of the field is to get us all to ordinary unhappiness. Right? Well, but you know what Freud said we were trying to get people away from? Neurotic misery. So compared to that, I'll take the ordinary unhappiness. But in all reality, we really weren't studying what Seligman called what makes life worth living. And so he founded this new field of positive psychology. And I was just so fascinated by it. And it seemed so necessary that I created a class on it at University of Puget Sound, and then I was a professor here locally at Northeastern State University, where Laura took that very course. And I actually started to shift some of my research on that focus as well. So what we now know from a couple of decades of research in positive psychology is that we all tend to dwell on a lot of negative things. It's just human nature. It's what we do. In fact, one of the first articles that came out in positive psychology is called "Bad is Stronger Than Good." Because the impact that bad events, bad experiences, bad comments people make to us are so much stronger and have such a larger impact on how we are everyday functioning than do positive events, which far outweigh the negative events in terms of frequency. So really, we really wanted to do something about that in the field. And so there was a big push to start focusing on the positive aspects. And in fact, I will say that nobody in this field would say that having this negativity bias is really a bad thing. It's actually largely believed to have adaptive value, in that if you're focusing on negative things in the environment, you'll be better prepared to get away and to protect yourself. But we also know there's research showing that by focusing so much on negativity, especially negative media, it drains us. It drains us, not just physiologically, not just psychologically, but our immune systems get beat down, and we're actually more likely to get sick. So we know there's not always something good about focusing on the negativity. And there's actually comparable research now that sharing good news is good for us, not just to make us feel good. I often tell this story about one of my students at NSU. He wrote in one of his reflection papers about positive psych. He said, well, what's the point in talking about good news? Why, what do we do? It makes me feel good, that's fine. And then he says, but there's no long-term effects of it. What is it going to do for us? Oh, and by the way, when somebody else called him out in class about that and said, you're just a pessimist, you know what he said? I'm a realist, right? So there's always a frame of mind we have with these things. And what we do know, though, is contrary to that student's opinion, we have decades of research showing that positive emotions actually does have long-term effects well beyond just how we feel. There's a real fascinating theory called the broaden and build theory of positive emotions by a researcher named Barbara Fredrickson at North Carolina. And her theory, which is well supported now, is grounded in this concept that positive emotions broaden our mindset and the available behaviors and thoughts that come to us. And so by broadening our, what she calls momentary thought action repertoires, yeah, there you go, there'll be a quiz later. She said by broadening that, we will be exposed to all sorts of different ideas about how to behave and think that we wouldn't have otherwise. And so then we can build our psychological, emotional, and cognitive resources. So there's a lot of research for that, and what it shows is that positive emotions is actually associated with creativity, problem solving, and resilience. So there are real long-term benefits of experiencing positive emotions. And most relevant today, there's some really fascinating research out of Harvard that you may have seen this a few years ago that shows that happiness and well-being is actually contagious. It's fascinating, by 3 degrees. So if you're happy, you become happy, that affects your friend, and their friend, and their friend. It's really pretty fascinating from a community perspective, because if we can raise the level of well-being of Tulsans, that's going to spread. I mean, this is not just theory, there's research that supports this. So what LT is doing today, we've invited our local Tulsans to come share the good news. What are you doing? What are the great things that you're contributing to our community? So, and our hope is that we learn from each other, that we leave with greater hope and optimism for the future of Tulsa, but also that you build new connections with each other. And so that we come out of today a stronger Tulsa than we were when we walked in the doors this afternoon. So that's what we're hoping to get today. And I'm just so thrilled that you all are here. I hope you're as excited as I am about this day and about some of the work that we're going to hear about. And I know that we all are going to feel better when we walk out that door later this afternoon. But I know why we're really here, and we're really here to hear the good news from all these partners that are going to talk to us today. So why don't we get on to that, and let's hear our first presenters. Thank you.